You're listening to Underground USA News.
Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, Attorney General Pam Bondi has initiated a grand jury investigation to examine the origins of the Trump-Russia collusion narrative, prompted by a criminal referral from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. This development seeks to uncover the truth behind what some describe as a politically motivated hoax aimed at undermining President Trump's campaign and presidency. Critics argue the narrative, which fueled years of investigations, lacked credible evidence, while supporters of the probe hope it will hold accountable those responsible for promoting misleading claims. The investigation reflects ongoing efforts to address lingering questions about the integrity of past intelligence and law enforcement actions. The House Oversight Committee, led by Chairman James Comer, has issued subpoenas for former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and several former DOJ officials, including Merrick Garland and Loretta Lynch, as part of an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's case and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. This move follows a bipartisan vote to compel the DOJ to release Epstein-related files reflecting public demand for transparency in the high-profile sex trafficking case. While some Republicans align with Democrats to push for openness, others face scrutiny for perceived hesitancy, highlighting internal GOP tensions. The committee's actions signal a renewed effort to uncover details surrounding Epstein's network, though the outcome remains uncertain as legal and political challenges loom. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has introduced a controversial policy requiring states and cities to certify they will not boycott Israeli companies to access $1.9 billion in federal disaster preparedness funds, a move aimed at countering the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Announced on August 4, 2025, the policy stipulates that compliance with FEMA's terms, including maintaining commercial relations with Israeli firms, is a prerequisite for grants supporting critical needs like search and rescue equipment and emergency management salaries. The Department of Homeland Security, under Secretary Kristi Noem, defends the requirement as a stand against anti-Semitism, noting that 34 states already have anti-BDS laws. Critics argue this ties essential aid to a political stance, potentially complicating disaster response efforts for non-compliant states. A new class of synthetic opioids, nitazenes, is rapidly spreading across the Americas, posing a deadlier threat than fentanyl, according to experts. Originally developed in the 1950s as potential pain relievers, but never approved due to their extreme potency, nitazenes, particularly isotonitazine, are now flooding illicit drug markets, contributing to a rising wave of overdose deaths. These drugs, up to 10 times stronger than fentanyl and hundreds of times more potent than morphine, evade standard drug tests and require multiple doses of naloxone to reverse overdoses, complicating emergency responses. Produced cheaply in overseas labs, primarily in China and India, and trafficked through established fentanyl channels, nitazenes are found in various forms like pills, powders, and sprays, heightening the risk of accidental overdoses. Experts call for urgent action, including specialized testing and public awareness, to curb this escalating crisis that threatens communities already battered by the opioid epidemic. The U.S. housing market is undergoing a significant shift, with home sellers outnumbering buyers by the widest margin in over a decade. According to recent data, as of August 2025, there are approximately 1.92 million active sellers compared to just 1.41 million buyers, a gap of over 500,000 driven by high mortgage rates nearing 8% and economic uncertainties like tariff concerns and layoffs. This imbalance, most pronounced in Sun Belt regions like Austin and Miami, has led to a softening of demand, with homes lingering on the market longer and prices expected to dip by 1% by year's end. While this could ease affordability for some, many Americans remain priced out as median home prices hover around $414,000, far outpacing wage growth. In a bold move to uphold legislative duty, Texas House Republicans voted to issue civil arrest warrants for Democrat lawmakers who fled to Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts to prevent a quorum and stall a GOP-backed redistricting plan that could secure 5 additional U.S. House seats for Republicans in the 2026 midterms. Governor Greg Abbott, emphasizing the importance of lawmakers fulfilling their constitutional obligations, set a 3 p.m. deadline on August 4, 2025, for their return, threatening fines, potential felony charges for fundraising to cover fines, and removal from office for those who failed to comply. The Texas House, unable to proceed without the absent Democrats, adjourned until Tuesday while Abbott ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to locate and return the lawmakers, highlighting the need to prioritize critical legislation, including flood relief over partisan tactics. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to revisit a contentious case regarding Louisiana's congressional map, which includes 2 majority black districts, to determine if the state's use of race in redistricting violates the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. The map, drawn to comply with a 2022 federal court ruling that found the previous map likely violated the Voting Rights Act by diluting black voting power, has sparked debate over balancing minority voter protections with constitutional limits on race-based decision-making. Critics argue the map's design, which stretches a district across the state to connect black populations, prioritizes race over traditional redistricting principles like compactness, while defenders, including state officials and civil rights groups, contend it was a necessary remedy to ensure fair representation for black Louisianans, who comprise nearly a third of the state's population. The court's decision, expected by June 2026, could reshape how states navigate the tension between the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment, with potential implications for congressional elections nationwide. The Department of Justice has ended a 44-year-old consent decree from the 1981 Luvano versus Ezel case, which mandated race-based hiring practices across federal agencies to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. The DOJ's Civil Rights Division, led by Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon, announced on August 4, 2025, that the decree, stemming from a 1979 lawsuit alleging discrimination, restricted merit-based hiring and imposed outdated DEI policies. This move aligns with broader efforts to prioritize competence over race in federal employment, following recent executive orders to eliminate discriminatory DEI programs. Critics argue it may reduce opportunities for minorities, while supporters see it as a return to fair skill-based hiring. The Trump administration has scheduled the first major test of its $175 billion Golden Dome missile defense system for late 2028, aiming to demonstrate a groundbreaking space-based shield capable of intercepting ballistic, hypersonic, and cruise missiles from anywhere in the world. Led by Space Force General Michael Getline, the project seeks to fulfill President Trump's vision of a robust defense against growing threats from adversaries like China and Russia, with initial funding of $25 billion already secured. While supporters praise the initiative as a bold step toward national security, critics question its feasibility and cost, citing potential oversight issues and comparisons to Reagan's unrealized Strategic Defense Initiative. The test, dubbed FTIX, will evaluate the system's integrated sensors and interceptors, marking a critical milestone in America's pursuit of advanced missile defense capabilities. A mass shooting at an unsanctioned after-party for the Hard Summer Music Festival in downtown Los Angeles left 2 people dead and 6 others wounded early Monday, highlighting the ongoing challenge of curbing illegal gatherings and gun violence in liberal urban areas. The incident occurred around 1 a.m. at East 14th Place and Paloma Street, just hours after police had shut down a large party at the same location, due to an armed individual arresting 1 person for firearm possession. Despite these efforts, the crowd regrouped and gunfire erupted, with witnesses reporting a chaotic scene possibly linked to a dispute. The Los Angeles Police Department is investigating, with no clear motive or additional suspects identified, underscoring the need for stronger measures to address unauthorized events and ensure public safety. The United States is set to implement a pilot program starting August 20, 2025, requiring some tourist and business visa applicants from countries with high overstay rates or inadequate vetting to post bonds of up to $15,000, a move aimed at ensuring compliance with immigration laws. This initiative, reviving a Trump-era policy, grants consular officers discretion to impose bonds of $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000, targeting nations like Chad, Eritrea, and several African countries with historically high visa overstay rates, as reported by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Additionally, a new $250 visa integrity fee will apply to non-immigrant visa holders starting October 1st, potentially refundable for those who adhere to visa terms. This program reflects a broader commitment to strengthening border security and immigration enforcement, addressing concerns about illegal overstays while balancing the need for lawful travel. The Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee is investing $10 million in a strategic effort to bolster its online presence ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. According to internal documents, this initiative, part of a broader $110.5 million fundraising plan, aims to engage over 600 social media content creators to reach 83 million Americans and generate millions of engagements. The DCCC strategy includes a social media bootcamp to train creators, with a focus on both political and non-political influencers to amplify Democrat messaging. Critics argue this move prioritizes narrative control over substantive policy discussions, raising concerns about the role of funded influencers in shaping public opinion. In a significant victory for election security, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously ruled on August 4, 2025, that Texas can enforce a law requiring identification numbers on mail-in ballots, overturning a lower court's block. The decision, supported by Judges James Ho, Don Willett, and Patrick Higginbotham, affirms that the ID requirement complies with the 1964 Civil Rights Act's materiality provision, ensuring voters are who they claim to be, a critical step in safeguarding the integrity of elections. Texas's 2021 Election Integrity Law, SB 1, aims to prevent fraud by verifying voter identity, a move praised by conservatives as a necessary protection against potential irregularities in mail-in voting. In a landmark move to hold polluters accountable, New Jersey has finalized a $2 billion settlement with DuPont, Chemours, and Corteva to address widespread contamination from polyfluoroalkyl substances known as forever chemicals, marking the largest environmental settlement in the state's history. The agreement, announced on August 4, 2025, allocates $875 million over 25 years for restoring damaged natural resources and supporting abatement efforts, with an additional $1.2 billion remediation fund to clean up legacy contamination at 4 industrial sites, including facilities in South Jersey. State officials, including Environmental Commissioner Sean LaTourette, emphasized that this deal sends a strong message to corporations prioritizing profits over public health, ensuring funds for drinking water treatment and environmental restoration. While the settlement awaits final court approval, it underscores New Jersey's commitment to tackling the persistent health risks posed by PFAS, which are linked to cancers and other serious conditions. In a decisive move to secure American leadership in space exploration, Interim NASA Administrator and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is set to announce expedited plans for a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor on the Moon by 2030, marking a significant step in the ongoing space race with China and Russia. This ambitious initiative, the first major action under Duffy's leadership, aims to establish a reliable power source for future lunar bases, enabling sustained human presence and supporting missions to Mars. Despite looming budget cuts, the project underscores a commitment to innovation and energy independence in space, positioning the U.S. to outpace global competitors. The reactor, designed to operate autonomously, could transform lunar exploration by providing consistent power during the Moon's long nights, a critical advancement for America's space ambitions. In a move signaling heightened global tensions, Russia has declared it will no longer adhere to self-imposed limits on deploying intermediate and shorter-range missiles, citing U.S. and NATO actions as provocations. The decision follows Moscow's claims of U.S. missile deployments in Europe and Asia, prompting warnings from Russian officials of military technical countermeasures to restore strategic balance. This development, coupled with NATO's push to bolster its long-range missile capabilities and ongoing support for Ukraine, raises fears of a new arms race, with analysts warning of the potential for miscalculation in an already volatile geopolitical landscape. The Kremlin's actions underscore the need for prudent diplomacy to avoid further escalation. In a significant step to counter growing regional threats, the U.S. Army deployed its advanced long-range hypersonic weapon, known as Dark Eagle, to Australia's Northern Territory on July 9, 2025, during the Talisman Sabre 2025 exercise marking its first overseas deployment. This milestone, led by the Hawaii-based 3rd Multi-Domain Task Force, underscores America's commitment to strengthening deterrence in the Indo-Pacific, particularly against China's sophisticated anti-access area denial strategies. The Dark Eagle, capable of speeds exceeding Mach 5 and a range of 1725 miles, enhances the U.S. ability to strike high-value targets with precision, reinforcing alliances with Australia and signaling resolve against potential adversaries. While this deployment showcases cutting-edge technology, concerns remain about the system's unproven lethality and the broader challenge of keeping pace with rivals like China in the hypersonic arms race. A massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake off Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula on July 30th triggered a tsunami that struck the Rybachi naval base, a critical hub for Russia's Pacific Fleet nuclear submarines. According to satellite imagery, the images reveal a pier bent out of shape, likely detached from its moorings, though no direct damage to the submarines themselves has been confirmed. The base, housing advanced Bore-class submarines vital to Russia's nuclear deterrence, sits just 75 miles from the quake's epicenter, prompting concerns about the vulnerability of such strategic assets to natural disasters. While Russian authorities downplay the impact, claiming no casualties due to robust infrastructure, the incident underscores the risks of concentrating military assets in a seismically active region, potentially affecting Russia's naval readiness amid heightened global tensions. French authorities in French Polynesia recently intercepted a yacht in the Marquesas Islands, seizing a historic haul of 1646.8 kg of cocaine, 232.4 kg of methamphetamine, 11 Glock pistols, and 24 magazines, with a street value of approximately $382.66 million. This operation underscores FBI Director Kash Patel's recent warnings about the Pacific region becoming a hub for transnational crime, as highlighted during the opening of a new FBI office in New Zealand. The seizure, not destined for French Polynesia, but likely bound for Australia, New Zealand, or Asia, confirms the growing use of the Pacific as a transit route for narcotics and weapons by organized crime syndicates, particularly from South America and Southeast Asia. This development emphasizes the need for heightened international cooperation and vigilance to combat the escalating threat of global crime networks exploiting remote regions. As ceasefire negotiations with Hamas reach a deadlock after nearly 2 years of conflict sparked by the group's brutal October 7, 2023 attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is advancing plans for a complete military occupation of the Gaza Strip, emphasizing the necessity of defeating the terrorist organization to ensure long-term security for Israel and prevent future threats from the territory. With the IDF already controlling over 75% of Gaza and the majority of its 2.2 million residents displaced to southern encampments amid a severe humanitarian crisis, Netanyahu's strategy includes operations in remaining areas, potentially risking the lives of the approximately 50 remaining hostages, some shown in recent Hamas videos as emaciated and pleading for rescue. Critics within Israel's defense establishment and hostage families argue this could lead to more deaths without negotiation, but supporters maintain that Hamas's refusal to compromise leaves no alternative to forceful action, as partial deals have failed, and the group continues to exploit captives for propaganda. The Trump administration, through envoy Steve Witkoff, is shifting to an all-or-nothing approach to end the war and free all hostages at once, rejecting piecemeal agreements, while international aid efforts face obstacles from Israeli restrictions and settler interference, underscoring the urgent need for a decisive resolution to restore stability. Growing discontent over immigration policies has fueled a wave of protests across Britain, with demonstrators in cities like London, Manchester, and Epping voicing demands for stricter border controls and deportations. Sparked by incidents like the tragic killing of 3 girls in Southport, these protests reflect deep-seated concerns over cultural integration economic strain, and public safety, particularly in deprived communities. While some far-right groups have exploited these tensions, local residents and activists argue their grievances stem from legitimate issues, such as the housing of asylum seekers in hotels which they claim burdens local resources. Counter-protests by anti-racism groups have led to clashes, prompting police intervention and arrests, as the debate over immigration continues to polarize the nation. Australia is exploring a price floor for critical minerals, including rare earths, to strengthen its position as a viable alternative to China's dominance in the sector. According to Resources Minister Madeleine King, this move, aimed at ensuring price stability for producers like Lena's Rare Earths and Iluka Resources, comes as low prices have hindered Western nations' ability to expand processing capacity. The policy, inspired by a recent U.S. deal with MP Materials, seeks to shield investors from volatile markets and support strategic industries vital for defense and technology. While the initiative has sparked a rally in Australian rare earth stocks, concerns linger about potential cost increases for consumers and the risk of market distortions, as seen in past government interventions.
You're listening to Underground USA News.